I am now going to take you to part 3 of the business navigation system, and that is the GROW model. When you Google the GROW model, you can find more information on it, and you will find different companies use it in very different ways. And the very specific way I'm using it here, I doubt you find a lot, because the mix of human perception in with the standard GROW model isn't really taught a whole lot, because few people have that combination of application of business sequence in GROW and then the human perception on top. So let me first start you off with the symptoms that the business navigation system can cure, or at least ease. Like, I'm not promising you heaven tomorrow, but I'm promising you that a lot of the problems that you have today will go away if you start to use the business navigation system. One of the symptoms that you can typically find if you don't have it is rework. Rework is the phenomenon that you have to touch something twice, because the first time when you try to do it, you didn't do it right, or maybe you have to touch it 3 or 4 times, because the image of how it's working well for the first time isn't right. So people have to do it again. And of course, when people have to fix mistakes, internal mistakes, that is always costing money for the company, and it's frustrating. The next point that we often see is missed deadlines. When you do project work, you probably know that keeping a deadline is really difficult. And the best way I have seen to not miss a deadline is having SMART goals and doing the GROW reviews, applying the mental images, because with that you get as close to the truth as possible, where you really are standing and what really needs to happen going forward. Another one that you can be looking at is missed sales targets. So it's from a completely different department. So missed sales numbers. That also has to do with people having a mental image in the head on what they could want, and then they do things, they're not meeting their target. And if you have the GROW reviews on a regular basis, the likelihood is higher that people actually achieve their targets. Another typical one that you might know is overspent cost budgets. That also is a typical symptom for images in the head not really matching reality. So if you have a certain cost that you can spend, and then you do the work and you need a lot more money for that, that's coming from originally the mind projecting a certain story, but then reality not matching up that story, and that's how you get to overspend budgets. The more your teams know how to apply image checking and how to really set SMART goals, the less likely you're gonna overspend budgets. And then there's the whole host of the emotional side, and we often find that the more companies and teams work with the business navigation system, employees are less frustrated, because they find that now they don't have to do a lot of rework, they don't miss their deadlines as much, and there's not as many complaints. So frustrated employees is another one that you can for sure ease. Now, the big advantage of the business navigation system is that when we talk about these things, we have 2 different ways of looking at people. In the past, when someone made a mistake, say on a deadline, it was the person's fault. And then people got angry at the person, and the person felt bad or guilty or blamed for the wrong reasons. So you were going into an emotional direction that really didn't help anyone. Now we can say, hey, we have the person to talk to who runs the project, but at the same time we understand that the reason a deadline is missed isn't that person as such, but wrong images in the heads of people involved. So we no longer go find the guilty one who we can blame, and then I'm the boss, I'm fine if I point out to someone else who the guilty one is. But we are now the team that looks for which mental image was wrong or which image was missing for us to really be successful. And of course, if teams work with wrong assumptions, you're going to have all these symptoms. And the more open you lead the dialogue about those assumptions and about the mental images, the more likely you're going to find what's not working, and the more likely you're going to see less of these symptoms. If you are wondering if the business navigation system might also help you, I'm going to give you one more indicator to check with you and your team if this is something that could actually help you. Because when the business navigation system is not in place, there are certain kinds of things you hear in meetings and you might not like hearing them. So I'm going to point you out what you can listen to and then find out if it's a match for you or not. When the business navigation system is not in place, we often hear complaining. People like to complain about their bosses, about their colleagues. Oh, the client didn't send me that on time and there's nothing I could do. It's a very typical one when people are not clearly looking at the responsibilities and the images in the head. Another one that you see quite often is excuses. My favorite excuse is,
I didn't have the time to do that because I have so much to do.
That's kind of like a killer phrase that could stop pretty much any argument, but basically what the person is saying is, I did not have a clear image of where my goal is, I did not have a clear image of what the steps are to go there, and I've just taken on too much and said yes to please instead of really looking at what I should be doing. So that's a very typical one where people just don't have priorities clear, and that always goes back to mental images that are missing. Another one that you see quite often is focus on the past. In this case, people go into a meeting and they start with, oh, that was really so difficult and I had to talk to this client yesterday and last week it already also went wrong and Mr. Miller did this, and that they go into the narration of what happened in the past and usually not what happened really greatly. And that's the kind of indicator that people are in their mind in an old program and not really in the GROW model to achieve a goal. Another one is detail at, I keep calling it detail at level 3. Like really down in detail, and then I did this, and in that line it said that, and then I had this measurement. You know, people are getting lost in the detail of the past. That doesn't help you. So detailed storytelling is another one. And last but not least, and this is really not comprehensive, it's just giving you some indicators. There is blaming, or, it went wrong because of that person, or it went wrong because that truck didn't come, or it went wrong because the system didn't work. That is also someone showing that they haven't fully understood their responsibility and their roles. And the business navigation system with clarity on mental images and roles is going to help there. So if you recognize these from your work environment, the business navigation system is certainly one thing that can bring your team forward.